This session 2 is entitled Theology, the Body Meets the Real World Dating. And Students for Life is honored to have this session led by the founders of the new nonprofit, Mission Love and Life. Give it up for Pete and Trisha DeMaio.
Hey, everybody. Now that we filled it a little bit, we're good. Get a video? Yeah, a little cheer.
Learn this from you.
Good. All right. Super excited to be with you guys. Super excited. Sorry for that it took a little longer. How are we doing on time? Are we good? Good. That's right. So, thank you for coming in. Thank you for joining us. It's such an important topic. I think that, honestly, this is the most important topic of the entire day, maybe the weekend. And I'm not saying that because Trish and I are presenting. It could be anyone presenting. I mean that this is the core of all of it. We're all pro-life, right? Yeah. But that's not enough. That's like the beginning. That's like the freshman team. We gotta get to the varsity team. So that's why we're gonna talk about love. And as the Sisters of Life teach us, love is the answer. Yeah. So we'll get there. Trisha and I have a powerful story. We have many of our family and our students that are here from our area that know our story. But shout out to you guys. Yeah. For those who don't know us, we have a powerful story of God's love, His mercy, His healing, His forgiveness, and His grace. So again, it's God's love, His mercy, His forgiveness, His healing, and His grace. And Trisha and I have experienced all of that over these last 20 years. It's been absolutely beautiful. So what we want to do is talk to you about those first 10 years, and then help you so that you guys can skip past that and get to the good 20 years, and you don't have to wait until you're like 28 to do it. You can like do it right away. Or if you're a little bit older, that's okay too. We're going to start fresh today. New start. Yes? Yeah. All right. Trisha?
So like Pete said,
Oh, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, I
No.
can use this one?
Yeah.
I'm not walking around, though.
No, you don't have to. It's my stationary wife.
Is it on? Okay. Yeah. I need to feel like I'm standing here. Okay. So, like Pete said, we've been together for over 30 years. Beginning was not so great. And what was missing in our relationship was education about how to love and how to love properly, and also how to keep God a part of your relationship. And once we figured that out, it was a piece of cake because He's got it in His hands. And over all these years, we've learned with our children, they are missing this. So we started Mission Love and Life because we really want you guys to be able to skip over all that bad stuff and get to the good stuff.
Yeah, and Trish and I realized, just on that note, on starting Mission Love and Life, we're doing all these different things over the years. We're doing pro-life work. We're very, very devoutly Catholic. We've done marriage prep together, where we'll do the marriage classes. We were doing that for Ascension Press even. And then what we realized is we need something that's the whole story from soup to nuts, right? We want to get people from all the way from the time that they're young and then carry them all the way through. So that's our goal. I mean, you can begin at any time with us, walking with us, and us walking with you, but that's what this is truly about. It's about discipleship, and it's about accompaniment, and it's about us starting to walk with all of you. So for young people, we'll put it up later so that this way you can follow us, but we want you to follow us so that this way we can start with you now, walk you through your dating years, your relationships, your friendships, being engaged, getting married, the first child, the second child, or if you choose a different vocation, that's okay too, and stay with you all the way, because the more vulnerable that Trisha and I are, people come up. I mean, people sometimes that are much older than us, and just they're so vulnerable and share their wounds. And so when we hear these wounds, we realize we want to do something about it. Yes, we want to help people heal on the back end, but we don't want to just be doing triage for the wounded. We want to actually get to the front side and help you so that you don't have to wind up wounded. So that's where we are. Amen? So here's our story. God made this little girl special for me. I don't know, beach day, cowgirl, we don't know what. She grew up on a farm, so I guess there was a little bit of both out there, playing in the hose and the mud. And then there was me. I grew up down at the beach next to Atlantic City in Ventnor. My mom and dad are here. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. Trisha's the oldest of 4 girls. I grew up a block from the beach. My mom and dad, if you know the Monopoly board, my mom grew up on the orange properties, St. James. My dad grew up on the purple ones. Yes, he grew up on the purple one, States Avenue on the Monopoly board. So, and then we grew up privileged. We grew up in Ventnor, the next town over. They were just poor Atlantic City kids. But I got to grow up next to the beach, and it was the best life ever. I don't know what I was doing in the other one, but my surfboard was sweet. And then we met. And we met when we were 15 years old. Thankfully, I was a good athlete, and I was transferring high schools, and I went from an all-boys prep school called St. Augustine Prep, and I transferred over to Sacred Heart, which was co-ed, and there was girls there, so it was like, whoa, introduction, girls, and I'm 15, and I have this really cool, handsome older brother, and everybody liked him, and I just wanted to be cool like him. Right, bro? And so I started dating a girl, and she was dating this guy, and then the two of us started to like each other, and then we fell in love. And that's us sitting on Trisha's mom and dad's couch back in high school, senior prom. I think we were in Vegas for that one. And here's what happened, though. No one took the time to have this conversation with us. And so that's why today's so important. We didn't know any of it. I didn't learn about Pope John Paul, theology of the body, all these other treasures in our Catholic Church, all the teaching, the beauty of love, the self-sacrificialness of love. I didn't learn about any of that until I was like 27, 28. I needed that when I was 15, when I was sitting on that couch. Because here's what happened. Instead of loving Trisha, when I ask this question to our high school students, I say, what's the opposite of love? And what do a lot of the students say? Hate. But what's the true opposite of love? Lust. What else? Give me another one. Use. Indifference. St. Maximilian Kolbe says the greatest evil of our time is indifference, or the greatest sin of our time. That was me. I'm ashamed to say it to you because I don't want you to look at me that way, right? But I was worldly, totally worldly. And so when I'm looking at Trisha, I'm not seeing this beautiful person that God created. And so I'm lusting after her. And that's not uncommon because that goes on a lot in our world today, right? So as I'm lusting after her, then the use sets in. And we have strong feelings for each other, and it's really easy to rationalize it. Like when you love somebody else, it's like, oh, well, we can do this because we're going to get married someday anyway, right? And so I'm thinking that way in my own head. Because in my heart, I really was a good guy. I wasn't a total jerk, but, right? And so... So Trish and I wind up becoming sexually intimate with each other. And then that bond happens. All of you know that there's a chemical that's released in our brains when we're intimate, right? What's that chemical called? Oxytocin. They call it the love drug because it binds us together. So we're bound together even more than we already were with those feelings we had for each other. And then fast forward a little bit, and the inevitable happens. It's about 1.5 years or 2 years later, and all of a sudden the house phone rings. Because young people, we're old, so there wasn't cell phones. This was the house phone. So I go running and diving across mom and dad's bed, answer the phone, hello? And Trisha says, hey, honey. Hey, hon, what's up? I'm late. She just said, I wish you could take a pill before you go up to talk, like the don't cry pill. We were grabbing something to eat real fast. Oh gosh, I didn't expect that to happen. All right, I do this a lot. The words I repeated were the words that all the other guys used to say. They're my boys from growing up down the shore. If your girl gets pregnant, you just get it taken care of. What was taken care of? Abortion? So that's what happened. Because, which we hear from all these other amazing, wonderful speakers, and thanks to SFLA for putting on this outstanding event, but high school students, you can't even get a Tylenol at school if your mom and dad don't sign a permission form, right? This is the just lunacy of the world that we're living in. But if I have $400 or $500 cash, I'm allowed to take my 17-year-old girlfriend into an abortion clinic, and they're allowed to rip the baby apart limb by limb like Dr. Ben Carson described earlier this morning. Man, you know how much that affects us to this day? That's the truth, the honest to goodness truth of abortion. Men, specifically you, there is nothing more unnatural, nothing, for men who are supposed to be authentically masculine, leaders, protectors, providers. There's nothing more inauthentically masculine than paying someone $500 to rip your own child apart limb by limb. Nothing. Worst thing ever to have to live through. So that's what happened. Trish and I started coming apart at the seams a little bit after that. Relationships getting a little bit rocky, and no one knew. We didn't tell anyone. And then fast forward, and now we're in college, and she's at Villanova University, and I went to St. Joe's. Go ahead, sweetheart.
So when we walked out of that Planned Parenthood that day, which I couldn't even tell you where it was, I don't remember going there. I don't remember coming home, but I remember it inside, and I remember sitting in there in the waiting room, and we had no idea what we were about to do. None. I got to be honest with you. It's not like today. You guys have all of this education out there for you to just take in and use. We had none of it. And I remember sitting there, and there was this woman next to me, and I clearly looked like I didn't belong there. And or that I was nervous or whatever. And I remember her saying to me, "Oh, honey, it'll be fine. This is my 5th time." After a while, it just gets, you don't even know what's happening. You just come in, you leave, it's over. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this for real? But the procedure was done, we left, and I gotta tell you, when we walked out of there, I didn't know it then. I just knew that I was pregnant. I needed to get that taken care of, and when I came out, it was all better. But we came out of there, and something was different, and it took us a lot of years to figure out what it was and how we were going to get past it. So we go to college, like Pete said, and I got to tell you, on the outside, we looked great. I was going to Villanova. I was going to nursing school. He's at St. Joe's. We're dating. We have friends. We're hanging out. It was like the best. But nothing changed in our relationship. As a matter of fact, it got worse. We were, partying like college kids do. I guess you would think that how do you get pregnant? You have sex. What do you do to not get pregnant? Don't have sex. Duh. Did we stop having sex? No. Nothing changed. And why would it? Because all you got to do is go in there and they take care of it for you. So nothing changed in our relationship. Senior year of college, I got pregnant again. So this time, I call Pete and I tell him, and I'm like, we decided we're going to do it different. We're going to tell our parents, and, we're going to go from there. So I decided that I was going to call my parents first. So I called my parents, and, after talking to them, they basically said to me, your life isn't going to go the way that you want it to go if you have this baby. So there's one thing that you can do. So I made the appointment, they came and picked me up, and we went to a Planned Parenthood, and I had an abortion. And that part was, I never really felt like I had a say in any of it. I was kind of listening to the people that I trusted and hoping that they were giving me the right advice, right? I don't blame them, and there's been so much healing that has gone on in our relationship with each other, with our parents, or my parents. But I really never felt like I had a choice. And just for the girls out there, you can stand up for yourself, and it'll all be okay. Your life might not go the way that you want it to go, but I got to tell you, I have 7 kids, and not 1 minute goes the way that I think it's going to go. So, I mean, literally, you just kind of roll with it, and if you have God on your side, it's all possible. So, after that, we stayed together. We broke up in high school once. We broke up in college. We stayed together, though, and we had the best time after college. We were traveling. Pete had this great job. He was making all this money. We went everywhere. I'm talking like real trips. Like we were in Vegas and Spain and Italy, and we had a lot of fun, right? We had a lot of fun. And I had a great job. I was making money, and we were so empty inside. And what was missing was the next part of our life, what we learned. And that's kind of where the good starts.
Yeah, and I think everyone can relate to that because we're all there and to some degree or another. I mean, the things that the students come up and tell us, one kid comes up to me with tears in his eyes. He said, Mr. DeMaio, I turned my back on God just like you did. I don't want to turn my back on God anymore. And I'm like, all right, dude, like, let's talk. And then a girl from Shanahan, I remember, she was a junior, and she could walk up to me and she said, Mr. DeMaio, thank you so much for being here today. And I was like, oh, you're welcome. And she was like, my mom and dad are going to be away this weekend, and my boyfriend and I were like planning everything that we're going to do, and now I know we don't have to do any of that, and I can't wait to tell them. And I was like, yes. I was like, thank you, God. We were at another school where they like kind of reject all of this. So like when they asked 110 juniors, how many of you are pro-life, only 3 of them said yes. The other 107 said no, and the 3 who said yes are boys. So that's like that environment we were talking in. Well, one girl walks up to us and she said, you two are different. And we were like, I guess so. And she said, you're not like the other like chastity speakers or pro-life speakers. Like, you're different than they are. And we were like, oh, well, gosh, thanks. I mean, we're just like you. We're no different. We're just older now, And but I guess the message was receiving her differently. She said, my mom and my grandmother, they both had abortions. And whenever they drive by and see those signs, they feel like judged and condemned. And Trish and I are like, gosh, that's not the message. We're not judging or condemning anyone. This is a message of love and hope and healing. I mean, 1 out of 4 women right now are post-abortive. You think they need a hug and some healing? You think maybe some of their like life decisions and maybe some of the backlash from those decisions is coming from the hurt from that and the pain they have in that? Well, let's go help them heal from that so that they can get on with the new life. And that's what Tricia said, is that part of our story is just beautiful. So if I can just put a little bow on that first part, to tie a little theology of the body in, there's 3 purposes to our sexuality. 3, all right? What are these 3 purposes? Somebody shout out one. Thank you. Procreative, right? Because if the world started with Adam and Eve, or Pete and Tricia, and we were the only 2 people here, and we never procreated, what would happen to the rest of all of humanity? Yes. So God doesn't want us to be extinct. So he created the sexual union so that this way we can procreate. What's he say in the Bible? Go forth and multiply. Beautiful. That's 1. Second, and by the way, you don't have to be any type of no fancy initials after your name or special designations or degrees. If this alien came here from another planet and looked at a man and a female and then or woman and determined, okay, if you put those 2 sexual parts together, right? The body, how they were created and made beautifully in his image and likeness, but Even if we took God out of the picture and it was just the alien, when you put the man and the woman together, what does it create? A new what? A new union, a new baby. So that should be very easy for all of us. Second thing, what's the second reason that we have our sexuality? Thank you so much. Yes. So you got to go back to the garden with this stuff. When God creates Adam and Eve, he first creates Adam. Adam's tilling in the soil. He's working with the cattle, probably catching some fish, you know what I mean? Throwing his line out there, and cooking it up and whatever. And then all of a sudden he creates Eve. And when God creates Eve, Adam looks at her. And guys, this is the way we're supposed to look at all females. And when he looks at her, what's he say? Whoa. And then after he says, whoa, the part they wrote down in the Bible, this is, alas, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. And when God creates us to elevate us above, not only does it breathe the nephesh, in Hebrew it's into us, or the Greek, the nephesh, the spirit, the soul to elevate us above, but he also makes us man and woman for this, so that this way we can create the third that you said. And he says, not just good. That was for like the dome and the sky and the water and all that. But then he gets from good, spiders, creepy crawly things, good. And then he makes us. And what does he say? This is very good, exactly. So that's the approach with each other. Mission, love, and life is about three things. Love God, love each other, and then live an abundant, joyful, happy life. But after what just happened to Trish and I, we weren't there. So for those of you who are gamers out there and you like playing video games, and when it's not starting out very, very well, right? You're in like 59th place out of 60, and you're like, oh man, this round is not working. What do you need at that point? Restart. You need a, right? Timeout, start over. Trish and I were in need of that start over. And so I didn't know how to do it. I was still in love with Trisha, and Trisha was still in love with me, but we had so much damage that we didn't know how to start over the game. How do you start it over at that point? Now I'm mad at her mom and dad. I'm angry at Trisha. It took two of us to make the second baby. How many of us got a say in that? One. I got no say in that second abortion. Her mom and dad picked her up. We never even made it to my mom and dad to tell them. Gone. Can't get you back. Permanent, right? And the truth is I'm pointing the finger at them. There's an old saying, when you're pointing the finger at other people, how many are pointing back at us? That was my fault. I'm the one who created that situation, not her mom and dad. Her mom and dad are wonderful people. They have 15 beautiful grandchildren. They love them to death. Love them to death. Just like my mom and dad love their grandchildren. They made a mistake. Are they in need of forgiveness? Yeah. One of my favorite Bible, well, it's more than a pericope. It's like the whole, Luke 6, 27 to 49. Luke 6, 32 to 38. Luke 6, 37. He can only forgive us to the measure that we forgive who? Others, and forgive ourselves. So I needed to learn all this, because here I am, and I don't know any of it in my heart. None of it. I went to Catholic school, K through 12, and I didn't know any of this in my heart. I spent my whole life learning about God, and I never actually knew him. I never actually knew, the person of Jesus Christ. I never knew Jesus. That's why everybody loves The Chosen, because when we watch it, it's like making it real. There he is. I know that, I want to know this guy. So God comes in and he throws us a life jacket or, because here we are broken. Here's how bad it is. Trish and I are living together. And when we would teach marriage prep, we'd always say there's two things we'd change about our relationship if we can go back in time. One, we wouldn't live together until we got married because it ruins it. And we wanted to leave it until it was time. And secondly, we wouldn't have had sex with each other until we got married. And we would save those two things for each other. But we were living together. And then here I think I'm doing something really good. Trisha's graduated college. She's a nurse. I'm working. We're doing really well, like Trisha said. And here I buy her this little tiny box for Christmas. And it's time. She wants to get engaged, right? So Trisha opens this little box, and when she opens it up, what's inside the little box? diamond earrings. Did she love those? I thought she was going to kill me right on the spot. So here we are. We're at Sunday night family dinner because, Italian families have to get together on Sunday nights and eat. No matter how old you are, you still got to come back to mom and dad's house or else you're like in trouble, right? So I'm the youngest and we're all there. And my brother Mike has cancer and my mom has cancer. They're both battling cancer at the same time. And the whole family's out in the kitchen and they're talking. And Trisha said, I want to get engaged already. We've been dating for 10 years. I'm going to have a diamond bodysuit and I won't have a ring right here on this finger. And I'm in the other room with my poor brother Mike, who has one eye, 11 tumors in his head, and weighs about 50 pounds less than normal. And he's losing his battle with cancer. And he looks me in the eye and he says, and he's married and he has his first 2 little children. And he looks me in my eye. It changed me right there. He said, Petey, you love her, don't you? I said, yeah, of course I love her, Mikey. Right? Just doing what everybody else does. That's what we do. We live together. Maybe we'll get a dog, right? We'll take pictures and send that out as our Christmas card, I'm just doing what the rest of the world is doing and what the rest of the world taught me to do and said this would work. This is the winning game plan and winning strategy. You're supposed to be successful and make money, right? And have my girlfriend and we live together. And then all of a sudden he said, well, if you love her, why don't you give her a ring already and marry her? My dying brother knew something that we didn't know. He knew agape. He knew what unconditional love was. He knew that it wasn't about him. It was about what he was giving to his spouse and giving to his children. I didn't even know the term agape, let alone actually understand it in my heart. And in that moment, God did something. And it was like Mikey pried the door open and then God just flowed everything through. Because from that point on, I start reading. I'm reading Pope John Paul II. I'm reading Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa says, where you don't see love, insert love, and there will be love. I'm like, all right, honey, if we just start trying to love each other, maybe we can start to repair these wounds for each other that we have. So we start inserting love into our relationship. And then I do get her a ring. And I bought her a big one because I knew I owed it to her because she had been waiting 11 years. I didn't want her to throw it at me. So I bought her exactly what she wanted. She told me exactly what she wanted, and I said, all right, I'm doing that. I'm going to give all myself to this thing. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But it's not going to be because I didn't try. And I'm going to give all myself to Trisha, all myself. I'm going to make myself a gift of self like Pope John Paul II teaches. And so anyway, I give her the ring. She says yes. We get engaged. We're so excited. We get married. And then a close friend of the family, John O'Rourke, takes my dad on a retreat. And on that retreat, my dad had a powerful experience. So he comes home and says, I'm taking you boys next year. So he took my brother Chris and I. I go on retreat. And when I went on retreat, I learned all about this topic that just happened to be the retreat that weekend. And then they start a confession line. And I get in line for confession. And when I went in there, this poor priest... I laid it on him. The last time that I had been to confession was senior year of high school when they make you go, I dumped all of it, 10 years of it, all of it. I never felt so good in my entire life. You want to talk about meeting Jesus in the confessional. And guess what I found out afterward? Father James McCurry, who I had my hour-and-a-half-long confession with, he was Mother Teresa's confessor and Sister Angelica's confessor. So when God brought me home, he rolled the red carpet out and said, let's go, Pete, you're mine. I didn't even find that out until a few years ago. So I come home now that I learned all this stuff and I just went and cleaned everything. And now here comes my time out and my start over gamers because now it's I'm back in it, right? When God forgives, he forgives. When the Bible says he makes all things new, he meant it. So now I come home. And now she has to put up with her Holy Spirit jacked up, husband. So I find Trish in the bedroom and I come walking in and I was excited.
So before we got married, when we got engaged, we really tried to rush the wedding.
Can I say one thing to interrupt? If you didn't know, my brother passed away, just to emphasize that. My brother passed away, and when he did, I was devastated. I couldn't have been more empty inside. At that moment, not a darn thing in the world mattered to me, and I just wanted to know, God, are you real? And if you're real, if you are real, then can you please let me know that you're real? And that's what happened leading up to the confession. And my mom thankfully lived, and she's here, with us. Sorry, sweetheart.
So, yeah. So that's what I was going to say. His brother Mike passed away in August. We got married in November. And so he went on this retreat. And the reason why his dad's friend had taken him was because his brother had passed away, and he brought him on this retreat to, get some healing. So the next year he takes Pete and his brothers. Pete comes home. He's like, ah, and he's pretty much been that way ever since. So I'm tired. I'm really tired. Anyway, so he, he says to me, because they learned a lot about theology of the body on this retreat. So one of the things that he's telling me when he comes home is, you have to stop taking birth control. Have to stop. It's so bad for you, blah, blah, blah. He's telling me all this, and I'm like, I know this. I'm a nurse, but we don't want to have a baby right now. And he's like, stop taking it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I stopped taking it. That was November. I was pregnant a month later with our oldest. And this is how awesome God is. Petey, our oldest, was born on August 12th, which is his brother Mike's birthday, who passed away. So, pretty cool.
Best gift ever. Best gift ever. So this is why I love having her with me. Sometimes I have to talk and she's not here, but Trisha's just so there's this feminine genius that's in her, and she's just simple, and then she's got the nurse's touch, so she's really good one-on-one and in small groups, I don't mind doing this. I love this. This is fun, And so when Petey was born, I was so happy in the hospital. I choked up in the hospital. The nurses started making fun of me. They're like, this dad's so happy, he's crying. They didn't know why I was crying. The real reason I was crying is because my whole life, like I said, I learned about God. And I knew about him, but I never knew him. In that moment, when I asked him to reveal himself to me after my brother died, not only did I know him, but for the first time in my entire life, I knew that he actually knew me. Me, Pete, by number, right? Like you, the individual, the fourth boy in your family, that one, you. Yeah, the little guy at the beach, yeah. With the surfboard, yeah, I know you. And I created you for happiness. And you're unhappy, so let me help you be happy again. And like the divine surgeon that he is, he went into the two deepest wounds in my heart. The two deepest wounds in my heart were the abortions, not knowing if she would ever be able to conceive children or not. I wasn't sure, and losing my brother. And not only did he give us our baby, but he gave him to me on my brother's birthday to tell my whole family, here's how much I love you guys. I know you're hurting, but I love you so much. I want you to be happy. So we named him Peter Michael. And we came home and we were so happy that we were like, all right, God, you take over. We're in the passenger seat. You're in the driver's seat from now on. Whatever you need us to do, church teaching, da-da-da, whatever. Yep, we're on board. We're all in. This is it. It's like Rounders. It was like, push the chips in. We're all in. We'll be open to life if that's how this goes, right? I love rocking this little guy. Put a Steelers jersey on him, They won the Super Bowl that year. It was like, what? And so then she gets pregnant a few months later, and Nikki's born. Now I have my two little boys, and I am loving them up. And we just stayed open to life. And actually, we were a little scared. We were a little nervous. One time, we were holding hands on our bed. We're married with two children, and we were like, God, we thought she was pregnant again right away, in 2 or 3 months. And we were like, God, we don't think we're ready yet. And she wasn't pregnant, but then a couple months later, she was. And now, I thought I just wanted little boys. I'm like, I have 2 little boys. Maybe I'll be like my dad. I'll have 4 boys. This is going to be awesome, right? This is great. I'm like, oh, man, I was loving them. And then this little girl comes along. We didn't find out what we were having. And then this little girl comes along, and oh, my gosh, she's my little Alyssa Maria. And I love my Alyssa Maria. Trisha gets her ears.
Guess who his favorite is?
No. I love them all the same, but it was my first girl. So Trisha puts bows in her head and gets her ears pierced, and I thought she was so perfect and precious because now I'm viewing girls and women properly the way I was supposed to. Those glasses that the world handed me, right? Threw them off. It was like, I want my God lenses back, the ones that you gave me. So now I'm viewing women the way I should have all along. I'm looking at my little girl. I wouldn't even touch her. I literally didn't even give her a bath until she was like 11 months old or a year old. She was so precious and perfect. I didn't want to mess anything up. And I just let Trisha take care of it. I'm like, all right. And then finally, one time I'm just taking care of her. I think she was sick. I was staying up at night with her, holding her. And I felt God tell me in my heart as clear as day, Pete, do you see how you love your little girl? You see how perfect and precious she is? Trisha was her dad's little girl. How did you treat that one? And that is the key to all of this. I know the world wants to pit us against each other as male and female. We're not against each other. We're complementary. Look at the garden, right? That's how the third is made. That's the love. That's the Holy Spirit. So that's the complementary part. Don't let anyone divide us. The devil, that's what the devil wants to do. He wants to come in and he wants to divide. God wants to restore and make us whole again. This is a beautiful union. And it will be for all of you too, if you say yes and you allow it to be. So we're trying to teach our boys and girls that's how you have to have healthy relationships with the others. And it's not just going to happen all of a sudden when you get married, like I'm going to be this toxic guy or this toxic girl, and then I'll get married and I'll just flick the switch. It doesn't work like that. Or I'm going to be a really bad friend to my friends, right? I'm going to block them on, social media, and then I have my private story and they're not allowed to see it, but these ones are allowed, but they're not, That's not cool. And treating people like that, you don't all of a sudden then start dating someone and then all of a sudden want to be self-sacrificial and make the other person more important. We have to start that now. The healthy relationships starts right now with all of us. How we treat each other, how we treat our family, we have hoodies in the other room. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Who says that? Mother Teresa, right? It's how we treat everyone around us. That's the key. So, anyhow, then we were on a little hiatus because we had 3 kids in 2.5 years. So Trish and I were a little overwhelmed, and we had a little bit of a break. And then all of a sudden, here comes our next little girl. And I thought I loved Alyssa. And then my Jenna Adriana comes along, and she looked different. She's got blonde hair and pink lips, and she was just this beautiful, sweet little thing, and I loved her to death too. And then I was like, God, I hate to ask for this, but if it's okay, I kind of want another little boy because these guys are so cool and I'm coaching them in sports and it's fun. And then he gave me another little boy and we had Vincenzo. And then after that.
He's my favorite.
And then, true. And then after that, shouldn't even hide it. At least hide it. And then after that one, we had a miscarriage. And then after that one, and there's a whole story right there with the miscarriage that we could share with you guys. But then after that one, oh my goodness, here comes our rainbow baby, Gia, the baby after a miscarriage. And Gia knows if it weren't for Bella going to heaven, we would have never had our Gia. And then we had another miscarriage. And then Trisha thought maybe we were done. And then fast forward a few years, and then we had our last little guy, Giovanni. Oh. So we have these 4 beautiful boys, 4 beautiful girls, and 3 beautiful girls. Hey, my lips to God's ears, right? And so 4 boys and 3 beautiful girls. I constantly ask. She's so sick of me asking, So anyway, we have them, and God is just pouring it on us with all this constant just grace and healing and just mercy. However, we weren't ready for what was going to happen next. I'm speaking in schools, and now our kids get a little bit older, and they're almost in high school. And then we realized, we're going to have to tell them about their older siblings. So, go ahead.
So, God's grace is unbelievable. It never stops. We are like, okay, what are we supposed to do now? Because Petey's at the age now where he's in, the classrooms that Pete's talking to in school. So we're like, great, we got to tell him. So we talked to a bunch of people, Sisters of Life, a few other people we know, and they're like, you just got to do it. So we sit Petey down one day and we tell him, and it was amazing how differently all our kids handled it. But we told Petey, and he was okay. He really didn't say much, but whatever. Next year comes along. Now it's Nikki's turn. We tell Nikki, and he handled it just like, oh yeah, I kind of figured, Mom. I mean, I was, you guys are out there doing all this stuff. I knew you had to have some kind of connection to it. Like no emotion. So then,
So Nikki.
yeah. And then it was time to tell Alyssa, and it was, for me, like, to tell your son that you did this, it's like, oh, he's your son. But to tell your daughter that your mom did this was like, I was petrified. And so we told her, and she was angry and was not happy, but we talked through it. And she actually said to Pete, you guys got to tell all of them. Like, she was mad that we had kept it from her. She was mad that we told Petey and Nikki and didn't tell her. And there's so many emotions. So fast forward a little bit. We're on our way down 2 years ago to come here to speak at Life Fest. The Sisters of Life have Thursday and Friday before the march. And all of our, in true DeMaio fashion, we're like out at Shanahan. It's like 10 o'clock at night. It's senior night for basketball. We're there. We rush home. We're packing our stuff up. We're getting in the car, our big Amazon van so everybody can fit. And we all get in, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and we're driving down to Washington, and we're checking into a hotel, and we have to be up at like 4:30 the next morning or something insane because we have to get over to Life Fest and be ready to speak by whatever time. And here we are, we're taking our 7 kids with us, and only 3 of them know what we're about to get up on stage and talk about. And I'm stressing out, and I'm like, there's going to be all these thousands of people, and I hate talking in front of people, and the kids are there, and where are they going to go? And no, they can sit in the back. And it was like a disaster in my head. So Pete's like, we're going to tell them on the van on the way down. And I'm like, okay. So here we are, we're in the van, and we, shut the radio off. Everybody puts their phones down, AirPods out, and we're like, guys, we got something we have to tell you. And we just tell them. It was like World War III in the van. Because now I'm crying, he's crying, they're yelling. Petey's like, don't tell me how to feel about it. Alyssa's like, well, I hate you, and you don't tell me how to feel about it. And they're yelling at each other. And I looked at him, and I was like, oh my gosh, we did this. We did this. We had no idea back when we made those decisions that we were going to someday have to tell our kids or our parents or, whatever, right? It affected so much more than just us. It was selfish. It's such a selfish decision. So, but here's how God is awesome. Alyssa says to us, she stands up. I can still see her standing in the back of the van, and she's like, you know what, everybody shut up. And she's yelling. She's like, you know what, Mom? You guys tell me that we're supposed to forgive and we're supposed to move on and all this stuff. She said, well, I've been praying to the 2 babies. And she said, I Googled the patron saint of forgiveness, and her name is Saint Maria Goretti. So I decided that the first baby was a girl, and we're going to name her Maria Goretti. And I Googled the patron saint of healing, and it's Saint Raphael, and that's the second baby was a boy, and we're going to name him Raphael. So now both babies have names, and we know that they're a boy and a girl. And everybody just kind of calmed down in the car. And Life Fest was awesome the next day. And here we are, right? God's awesome.
And so once again, here we are with God when we're in the middle of this chaotic, emotional mess in our car. And now here we are with God showering us with more healing. And we just start realizing that, oh my gosh, He doesn't stop. When he wants to fix things, he'll fix things, providing that we're doing our part. So, Trish and I, that's become our message, and a lot of our mission is to help people that are in need of healing. So, like the Sisters of Life, for example, have a gigantic hope and healing mission. And so that's something that's important to us, is we don't want to just help people on the front end, we want to help people on the back end too. In order to be able to help you guys, we're going to have to walk with you. So I'm going to put a couple slides up so that this way that you can follow us. Here's the reality of a situation. When you guys walk out of this room, here's how much you're going to remember of what Trisha and I told you about 10 minutes after you walk out of the room. In an hour, here's how much you're going to remember about Pete and Trisha. Tomorrow, here's how much you're going to remember. A week later, that's what you're going to remember. A year from now, that's what you're going to remember. The only way for us to truly have an impact on your life is if we can walk with you. So, do you think that I could possibly teach you theology of the body in 45 minutes?
No.
Do you think that you can go and learn everything that you need to know about healthy relationships, dating, marriage, theology of the body, even if you went to like a 1 week like course or retreat? No. So in order for us to truly be able to do that with you, we would need to be able to walk with you. And that's what we want to be able to do, is we want to walk with you so that this way. So I'll start doing Theology of the Body on YouTube so that this way you guys can follow us. And I'll wrap up with a couple things, and then we want to give a little time for Q&A. But this is God. You want to talk about God's grace. I'm working. This isn't what we do for a living. Trisha and I, have other jobs. We do this because it's the most important thing to do. But here we are. I'm working. My manager calls me on the phone. She was like, Pete, you have a shot at being best in company. And I was like, okay, great. What's that? And she said, you're going to be like the #1 agency in the whole United States out of 10,000 agencies. And I was like, really? And I was like, all right, great. Well, I don't care if I'm first or last. I literally am just trying to support my family because we were like bankrupt 2 years ago. So I just want to like pay our bills, right? And then they're like, you did it. You made it. You qualified for best in company. And I was like, awesome. That's great. And my dad's like, he taught us, you don't go to work for awards and trophies. You're going to work to support your wife and your children. So that's like my entire like frame of mind is, all right, great. You send me a trophy. It'll probably get dust on it, whatever. Then they're like, you have to go away on the company trips. And I was like, we can't. We have like 5 children, 6 children. And they're like, no, you have to. You're sitting with the president at his table and his wife and all. And we're like, all right, well, our family kept the kids for us. Thank you, guys. And one of the big ones was over to Austria. They put us on first-class flights. Trish and I are laughing like a couple of kids. We've never been on first-class flights in our life. We get over there. John Legend's the performer. So this is where we let John Legend hang out with us for the night. And then we got to meet him and do a meet and greet, and then we're flying home. We were still supposed to be in Austria, but we're flying home the next morning because it was Petey's 10th birthday, so we needed to get home, Trisha said, so we could be home and not miss his birthday. Birthdays are important. So we get on the plane. Here comes John Legend walking on the plane the next morning, and he was like, hey, what's up, guys? Did you enjoy the show? We were like, whoa, he knows us, And then it happened 3 years in a row. So we wound up going on these trips, and we didn't need that. All we needed was for God to restore the love in our marriage and give us these 7 beautiful kids. This was literally God just showing off. Like, hey, when I want to do something for you, I'll show you how I do it. And he's sprinkling the magic dust. And then there was a bunch of them. Tom Monahan from Train, and then this was, what's their name? Counting Stars, or yeah, is that the group? One Republic. Thank you. And then we got to meet. Oh, Michael Bublé, is he on The Voice now? Michael Bublé. He was in Canada. I didn't even know who he was, and I was like, wow, this guy's awesome. He's got an amazing voice, And so we got that. But this is it. If we're gonna have healthy marriages and healthy dating before marriages and healthy relationships, we need to keep 3 people. I don't care if it's a business partnership or our families. We just have to keep 3 people in there, and the third person that we have to keep in those relationships is God. If we keep him at the center of the relationships, no matter what happens, might get angry at each other or something, say something we didn't mean or do something, it doesn't matter. He'll come and fix it when we need him to. So that's like a little Christmas on night huddle. The kids are huddled up, ready to go. Santa's coming the next day. And that's when Gia was born, our rainbow baby, and the kids are at the hospital. And this was Giovanni, the last one. And oh my goodness, he's been such a blessing. As Trisha said, it's like we're like grandparents now. Like the kid Gia takes care of him. She thinks he's his baby, and she and we just kind of just watch it. And it's awesome. It's the best thing ever. Big families are cool. We now know what we didn't know back then, and we didn't realize it was going to affect others around us. I was given a talk at Temple University, and my dad said, "Pete, can I come with you?" I said, "Sure, Dad." And he came with me, and we're riding home in the car, and he said something. He said, "Pete, you guys always talk about all the love and the forgiveness and the healing, right?" But he said, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Sure." He said, "As your dad, as a grandparent, what makes the woman's parents think that that baby belongs any more to them than it belongs to your parents, the father's parents?" Right? Isn't that true? Ladies, guys, that's why I said we're meant to be complementary. God created us for that. Not what's going on out there in the streets, like my body, my choice, and like yelling at each other and fighting with each other and pitting each other against one another. That's not it. It's this. And what Pope John Paul teaches us is even better. See, when somebody's on the fast food diet, like I was on as a kid, that fast food where you just want what you want, that's the third purpose of our sexuality is pleasure. God creates pleasure and attaches it to things he wants us to do. He wants us to procreate, and he wants us to bond with each other. Marriage is for babies and bonding, so he attaches pleasure to it. So when we look at our bodies and try to understand the Creator, who is love and made us in his image and likeness, which means we're love also, when we look at our bodies, there's nothing wrong with our bodies. They're perfect just the way that he created them, and they're meant for each other, but they're not meant like as a fast food diet to just go seek pleasure over and over and over again. That's not what it's meant for. There's something deeper and more meaningful. And so what Pope John Paul teaches us about life being precious is that I don't need to give you a commandment not to kill one another. If you have love in your heart and you love one another, you don't need laws or rules. So yes, all this other advocacy work that we're doing, super, super important. We can't stop. As Charlie Kirk said earlier this morning, that this wasn't the end, Roe versus Wade. This is like the beginning. This is our springboard point. But the real answer is for us to convince others to have love in their hearts. Because when we have love in our hearts for each other, you don't even think about using or killing the other person. We don't need that as a commandment from God, and we don't need it as a law from a Supreme Court or any state. When you love one another, you do what Mother Teresa says, which is you seek what's best for the other. In Italian, they have two ways of saying I love you. When we talk about eros, like romantic love, we say ti amo. So that's the love between a husband and a wife. But they also say te voglio bene. Te voglio bene also means I love you. But when I was given a eulogy at my grandmom's wedding, the priest came up after. Eulogy, my grandmom's wedding. Funeral. The priest came up afterward. Oh, an interesting eulogy. The priest came up afterward and said the actual true definition of te voglio bene, the true translation is to wish it well on the other. Does that make sense? So we need to create a culture of not just life, but a culture of love where we wish it well on the other. Then we don't have to worry about killing one another because that's not even a question. And that's why there's 4 loves in the Greek language, because it's the eros, which is the love that the society out there has tried to take this beautiful love and reduce it to romance and take that and reduce it to sex, and we're not letting them do it because we're taking love back. Right, Mission Love and Life? And our interns are helping with that, like Gina and Antel and Christopher and John Finley and any other intern in the room. So we're taking love back. The Sisters of Life are guiding us in this mission. I don't know if we're supposed to show this photo or not, but we love the Sisters of Life so much, so much. They came over to the house for a Super Bowl party with us. Shh, don't tell anyone. Our kids were so pumped. They were like, the Sisters of Life eat wings? They're so awesome. We love them so much. That's how Mission Love and Life actually came about, just so you know. We went up for the profession of vows at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and a few of the sisters said, Pete, go downstairs into the crypt, and when you go downstairs in the crypt, we want you to put your hands on Cardinal O'Connor's tomb and ask Cardinal O'Connor what he wants of your life. Well, about a few weeks later, all this started. So our charisms are the charism of life from Cardinal O'Connor, the charism of love from Pope John Paul II, and the charism of showing that love and service to love one another like Mother Teresa. Those are our charisms. If you would like to, that's the whole crew. That's all 9 of us. If you want to follow us, oh my gosh, there's so much. Like I said, just follow us on YouTube after this. We just set up all of our social medias this year, so there aren't like a ton of followers or anything. Just go on, start following us. We'll build everything out. But I'll start doing all this teaching, the theology of the body and dating and how, we can do Professor Cronin and the 5 tips on like your first date and all that kind of stuff. But I'll put up this for you guys. That's actually a really, really good point. Ladies, a lot of times when I'm talking to all girls somewhere, like at a high school, I say, don't forget that the ladies actually hold the key in the relationship. Here's why. And ladies, this is so important. When I'm seeking pleasure and I want to get something from Trisha when we were kids, high school and college, in those years, if she checked me and told me no, ladies, what would have happened? One of 2 things. I leave because I only want something from her, or I stay and I prove to her how much I actually really do like her and love her and want to marry her someday. Either way, she wins. Right? So, sorry guys, but ladies, you have the key. So if you check the guys, you'll actually find out if this really is the one and he wants to be with me for the rest of my life for me, not just something that he can do with me or get with me. Does that make sense? And guys, you already know how yes, let's get yes? And men, social media. And then men, you already know how I feel about how we're supposed to treat all the ladies around us. Our website, by the way, is loveandlife.org. Loveandlife.org, A-N-D, loveandlife.org. And our web store with all of our merch is It's not working? All right. Yes, and all the handles, because you guys are good with handles, all the handles are at Mission Love and Life. All the social medias, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of it. And for us older people, Facebook, at Mission Love and Life.